So it's time to go back in time.
Howie, the National League Championship Series MVP, is looking for another memorable moment here in the World Series. Swinging a line drive, slice down the right field line toward the corner. Springer back, looking up, and this one is gone, and the Nationals lead. Howie Kendrick has done it again. A slicing two-run homer off the right field foul pole. Do you believe it, Howie Kendrick?
The best interview in baseball is presented by Corona. Howie Kendrick, welcome back to Intentional Talk. Be honest.
Yes.
Be honest. How many times per week do you watch that homer?
You know what? I only watch it whenever somebody shows it. It's kind of interesting. People ask me about that all the time, and I'm not one to really go watch my highlights. You know, my kids are always on me all the time. People go, oh, man, you know, but every time I see it, it just gives me goosebumps. It brings back that feeling of, championship feelings.
Hey, Howie, it's one of the most memorable moments in franchise history. And because of that, the Nationals are doing bobbleheads to celebrate these memorable moments. You're one of three guys getting these bobbleheads. I'm just curious, do you feel a little bit bad for the fan that shows up and gets the Ryan Zimmerman or the Jason Worth?
You know what? They're both great guys, man. But, you always show favoritism to your bobblehead just because, you got the socks up. You're seeing it with, I really love this bobblehead because, I wore my pants up all the time. I think they nailed it, the facial expression, the swing, everything about it. So I'm actually really happy that it turned out the way it did. And, they involved me in the process. When they talked to me about doing a bobblehead, I was all in. I think I love bobbleheads. So for me, it was a no-brainer. And I'm really happy that they included me in their 20th anniversary celebration.
Man, go ahead, Rai.
No, I was just going to say, I was wondering that, but you kind of nailed it. Just like to be asked to be in the collab of building it and having it nailed like it is, that has to feel pretty good.
Yeah, it does, man, because sometimes you see bobbleheads or you'll see statues that people have done, and you go, man, that doesn't even look like the guy. So,
So
I didn't
true,
want to be
though.
in that situation where I didn't, get a chance to see it and be a part of it. And, like I said, they did a great job with it, and I think the likeness is there, and, hopefully a lot of fans get mine.
It is so good to see you, man. And you know what? Now that you're retired, what are your hobbies now? What's Howie Kendrick doing with his free time?
You know what? Even though I'm retired, I'm probably busier now because I got I've got one kid that's he's going into his junior year next year. I help coach baseball this year. I like cars. I've been doing mini bikes with my kids, so I've been working on mini bike engines. Man, I'm all over the place. I feel like I'd almost rather be playing because I have more free time when I was playing. But, you don't get these years back. I know you guys have kids, Kevin and Dempster. I know you guys got kids, so you know what that's like. You're always chasing them around. Your time seems to just fly by. But, one day they'll be out of the house and I'll be wishing they were here. So
you got that right.
It's so true. It is so true because the locker room used to be where we could tell Mama and like, hey, I gotta go early work. It's like 11:45, and what that means is getting our sliding shorts and then get a card game going and then go take some soft toss a few hours later, maybe get some spread. But it's funny because that was our little getaway. You mentioned cars. I was telling them before we had you on, I said, man, he always loved the cars. He loved the older cars. Talk to me about the collection. Has it increased more since you've retired, or has it shrunk since the paycheck's not coming in like it did?
I got to be a little more mindful of where I put the funds. But, it's I've gotten more into the classic trucks more so than the sports cars and stuff. You see me with Harold there in the old Porsches. I still love Porsches, but I'm probably more. I've got like a 79 F-250 that I like. I've got a 65 C10. And, just more of the classic stuff. I can't kind of change paces here and there. I think the adrenaline's still in my veins as far as the sports cars go. But, I'm trying to slow it down a little bit.
Okay, so I also read you have a collection of vintage watches. What's the most coveted in your collection?
I had a bunch of them, but then the one I regret selling the most, I had a Blanc Pond, like 50 fathoms. It was a zero radiation, like a no radiation dial one. And that's the one that I always regret, like, getting rid of. It was a 1960s watch, but the first watch that I ever purchased that was a vintage watch was an Omega Seamaster, or not Seamaster, but it was an Omega, shoot, I'm blanking on the name right now, but it was a 60s Omega Moonwatch, actually. And, you know, I got it off eBay. You know, it was all original. I kind of got lucky with it because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. But I still have that watch to this day. It's the one watch that I will not sell, along with some gifts that I got from my wife for Father's Day. I have a couple watches that I got from her on 2 different Father's Days that'll never go anywhere.
That is so awesome. Any watches from Canal Street? Because most of the time I did my shopping at Canal Street in the show. I had a lot of Rolexes, and they added up to about $318. Anyone?
You know, they cracked down. Man, they cracked down on Canal Street now, man. Like, you can't really find much fakes out there anymore. They've done a good job of busting them, but they're still out there. I mean, you got to be careful. But I haven't been in the watches.
Right here. This one's still rocking, dog. Hey, you guys zoom in on it. There it is. It's still rocking from Canal Street.
You know what I'll tell you is when people know that you've made some money in your life, it doesn't matter. They'll think it's real anyway. You know, like Ocho.
That's what Kevin always says.
Yeah, he says
that's
that.
That's Kevin's entire philosophy. Is it doesn't? Everyone thinks it's real. It doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, they're gonna think it's real 100%. They don't know. They think you got all this money flowing in, man. I mean, you can get Fugazi anything, and they would think it's real.
We thought maybe all your watch love came from when you tried to pull that heist on Ben Affleck back in the day and steal his watch, or at least try to knock it off of him. Can you explain to us what happened here? Because I don't know if you remember this. He's sitting there in those seats, right? Those are Kevin's seats, and clearly you're just trying to go for it right there. That's robbing Ben Affleck of a look at him. He was angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, I was a young guy right there, man. That was my first year in the big leagues. And, you know, it's funny, first base, I'd never played first base in my life. You know, and like I get up to the big leagues, they're like, hey, you play any first base? I go, no, not really. And I remember Sean Figgins telling me, hey, man, you play anywhere they ask you to play. And I remember laughing about it. And then I was putting in reps. And the very first game I ever played at first base was in Detroit. We were playing the Tigers, and Adam Kennedy walks in. He goes, hey, he goes, man, you ever play any first base? I said, no, why? He goes, well, you're playing it today. And I'll never forget I think it was like the first or second inning, somebody hit a line drive up the middle, and there's a man on second. And I'm standing there watching the play. And I'm like, oh, crap, I'm supposed to be the cutoff man. And, you know, I never forgot that after that. But, you know, I felt like first base because I was already at second base. So it was a little easier. But that whole Ben Affleck thing, I didn't even realize it was him. Like, I was just running over to catch the ball, and then somebody goes, hey, you know that was Ben Affleck. And then it came a huge thing. They started calling it Hollywood and all of that. And, you know, it was just kind of funny.
Yeah, dude. He was a huge Red Sox fan. We were close when we were there. As soon as I went and played for the Orioles, then we lost contact. But for 3 years, my phone didn't stop, you know, like going off and like asking me how we're feeling and all this stuff. But it's pretty cool stuff because he was a true fan. I do want to ask you one quick question because you mentioned something that right now in this game, like players need to play everywhere, right? You see it all the time. And you said that you never played first base. And when they say, hey, you're going to play first base, what was the hardest part about learning that position? Because people think it's just like super easy. If you played catch, you played first base. But what was the hardest thing and the hardest adjustment for you doing that position in the big league level?
I think, you know, because I was already on that side of the field, you know, the right side of the field, I knew the cutoffs and stuff like that. But I think just positioning around first base, knowing which balls I can get to, knowing which balls to let go, and then being able to bust it back to the base. I think the toughest part for me was knowing how far I could get off the line to be able to make it to the base in time. And, you know, playing with Albert, Albert is funny. Like, I used to watch him, and he would still be running to the base as you fielded the ball. And I remember not throwing a guy out one time because I was waiting for Albert to get to the base. And he said to me, he goes, hey, just throw the ball. I'll catch it. You know, and, like, that was one of the things that I started to realize, like, playing with him and learning different things because as my career went on, I started to play more first base, and then I played some third base, and then I learned to play left field. You know, and I learned more left field with the Dodgers. And, you know, that year was a tough year for me mentally because of the drain it took on me being able to play multiple positions. First base was nothing because I was already used to that, but being able to play 3 and 4 positions, sometimes all in one game, was a mental drain. And, you know, I really thank the Dodgers for that because it actually prolonged my career, you know, being able to play multiple positions. it kept me in the lineup, and then I could fill in wherever we needed a spot. So, you know, it was tough in the beginning, but it was well worth it. And I tell people all the time, like, if you can learn it as a kid, you're going to be better off. Now these kids want to play. So I'm a shortstop. Well, I'm like, what if your team's already got a shortstop? And, you know, even with my kids, one's left-handed, so he can either play first base, pitch, or he can play some outfield. And then the other one, he's a righty. I have him play everywhere because if he goes to a team, he doesn't feel uncomfortable. He can always get in the lineup. And I said, if you can hit, I said, they'll find a place to put you.
That's
Darn
right.
right, man.
Time for a Corona vibe check. On the 2019 World Series team, who was the main vibes guy that got the team right before a game?
Oh, Gerardo Parra, 100%. Like that guy, man, his energy, the way he went about it, and, you know, he just brought the party with him, man. And, you know, once we got him that year, I remember when he came in on a trade, I mean, the game, I mean, he didn't, I don't think, like, offensively he had a huge impact, but his presence, his energy, his confidence, the way he went about it every day, he just injected, like, all this energy in the team and this confidence. And, you know, he pulled for everybody no matter what. And, I mean, GP was the man. You know, he's always going to be one of my favorites because what he brought to us. And, you know, every time I see him, man, the guy's just a ball of energy. He's still with the Nationals now. He coaches first base for him. And, you know, he does a great job. Brian Dozier was another guy. He brought a lot of energy. I mean, the after-game celebrations, you know, the different mascot heads and costumes and things like that. I mean, we had a fun team. And then when we won, I mean, everybody was in on the celebration.
Yeah, absolutely. Howie, you may have a mystery bobblehead, but it is no secret. You are always a fun guy to talk to. Thanks so much for coming on.
Kidding, dude. Appreciate you so much, dude.
Oh, no, I appreciate you guys having me. And, you know, it's always a blast. I've always wanted to get on Intentional Talk, so I'm glad I've got it under my belt.
Come back anytime.
And, I definitely appreciate it.
What are you doing next Tuesday? You know?
Hey, I'll actually be next Tuesday. I'll be in Tennessee going to Dollywood, so.
Dollywood.
Nice. Oh, right on. Heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a little family vacation. We're going to D.C. for the bobblehead stuff, and then I actually lived in Sevierville, which is right there in Pigeon Forge, and, you know, Gatlinburg for a few years with my best friend and their family. And we're going to go visit them, and then we're going to do Dollywood because my kids like theme parks.
It's amazing.
So, and then I do a lot of MLB Develop. So the next week I'll be doing MLB Develop. So.
Okay, next time we talk to you, we need an update on picks from Dollywood.
That's right.
Oh, 100%.
That's right.
Thanks so much, Howie. We appreciate it.